Hi there. I'm called to come back on today and share a little bit more of my actual experiences, my awakening experiences, if you will. And I do not consider awakening in the terms of looking around at the world and seeing through the illusion and seeing, all the lies we've been sold, and that maybe there is a level to that and a layer to that, and it's important to see and to know, but for myself and many others, it's easy to get stuck in that place. So that's not a place that, if you are in, you don't want to stay there long. Maybe, I don't know, it's your journey, it's your path, your choice. I wouldn't recommend it. You get pretty lost and all that. It's pretty dark and devastating in some ways, but there's so much beauty and love and peace and joy on earth, and that's what I choose to tune into. That's the frequency that not only feels good in my body and in my life, but it allows me to feel free and light and to create and enjoy and feel love from within. So anyhow, I consider the awakening process is when you become aware of yourself, and when you see all that you are through God's eyes, and through the eyes of the divine, and in all your fullness, all your radiance and your glory. So that's what I consider to be an awakening. And also when you start to see your multidimensional nature, when you see that you are more than just this human and this physical body, but that you are also this. So you're both. And I love you. And I'm here with you, sharing in a new way. This is all new for me. Like the new name, Ansara. I'm getting used to this newness of being in front of a camera and speaking and sharing openly. So, yay! Here we are. One of the first experiences that I had was in Salt Lake City. I used to love to wander the streets at night. Yes, by myself. I was rarely, if ever, afraid of doing so, and that has kind of been something I've always embodied. Being able to go to spaces and places and be around people that maybe others were afraid of, but I did it, and I loved it so much. Especially, it was a bit smaller back in those days, the city was, but still a city, and to walk down those streets at night with, hardly ever any other passers-by, maybe a few cars and a few people. But on this night in particular, it was raining just lightly, and I was just wandering. Most of the time I didn't have like a specific place I was going to. I would just walk and observe, and it felt good because there wasn't that static energy of all the things and people, and so I got to experience the city without that. Ooh, my ears ringing, and it was beautiful. Anyhow, I was walking along in the dark, in the rain. It wasn't too late, maybe like 10 or so, and on a bench along the side of the road under a tree was a book, and it was sitting like on the edge and like pointed at me. And it felt like it was sat there very purposefully. Whoever put it there, thank you. It was obviously the divine, the universe, because this book did have a lot to do with some of my initial inner awakening, and this was around the year 2009, I believe, 2009, and the book was called The 12, and I did look around. I looked all around, and I waited. I remember waiting for like 10 or 15 minutes thinking, I think I might have picked the book up right away, but I was like, I shouldn't take this book. Someone, like, left it here by accident. I quickly realized, I just knew intuitively, no, it's meant for you to take. Interestingly enough, I can't remember if I opened the book right there, then and there, in the rain and dark. I don't think I did. Maybe, though. I think I did wait till I got home. Okay, so I opened the book. The first page of this book essentially says something. I don't have it currently. I'm looking for it. It was hard to find for a long time. That's another part of the story. So I opened the book and the first page says, "If this book found you, it was meant to." And I was like, what? I was like, it was just sitting on a bench in the middle of, the city, pointing, and like, look, it was like right there for me. And I was like, what is this book? And it sparked, it was a novel, but it sparked some things in me that I will never forget. I will never forget reading that. And it was a book that I, just poured through within a matter of days. It was hard for me to even put down. And I connected with it on such a deep soul level. It was incredible. And another interesting part of that story was that, and it's by William Gladstone, just in case anyone's wondering, And, anyhow, years later, I would think of this book and try to remember some things from it, and I really had wanted to have a copy of it again. And for years, I searched for this book. I knew the title and the author, and I couldn't find it. It wasn't online. It wasn't anywhere. I would go in used bookstores and ask them. And it wasn't like a frantic search, but over the years I did often, every few years I would get online and look for it again, and it was never there. There were a whole bunch of other books called The 12 or, with similar titles. I couldn't find this book, and it was maybe a few weeks ago when I got a copy of The Alchemist, and my son and I are reading it in the morning when we wake up. When we first wake up, we read a few pages of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and it occurred to me that I wanted to find this book, The 12, and read it with Seven, with my son, if I could find it. And I went online, and it was right there. There it was. It was on Amazon. And, it was a used copy, and it only cost like $1 or something, plus shipping, a few dollars of shipping. And I was shocked. I was blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, was this like a timeline shift? Because it wasn't there. I'm telling you guys, I looked and looked and looked for this book for years. I mean, since, I can't remember. I found it in 2009. I think I found it in 2009, something like that. And then searched for it on and off for years. And anyway, it sparked some things awake in me. And it was a really beautiful experience. And anyhow, it's supposedly on its way to us now, but it's lost in the mail. So this will be interesting. This is a little bit of a saga. Oh, I can't wait to share with you how it works out, because who knows if it'll show up. Maybe I have to reorder it. At least it's there. At least it's online. At least it's there. We'll see. We'll see if it's meant to be. But that was something that started to spark things awake in me. And I started to have different dreams after I read that book. I started to see the world differently and think of myself in the world differently. Even just watching a sunset was vastly different. And that was just the initial awakening around those years. It didn't really start to come full on until around 2011 and 2012. And my life at that time was getting really rocky. A big part of my awakening was being addicted to drugs and living on the streets. And I know that sounds extreme. It doesn't have to be that way, of course. That was my path. But, yeah. It did. I will say this. I look at my addiction and at living on the streets and going through that hardcore life the way that I did. It peeled away all the layers that were not really me. It stripped me bare, raw, naked. Like there was just oof, all the layers, all the masks I'd ever wore, anything I'd ever thought that I was or would be, it just, it stripped me bare of everything. So much of the time I had, I didn't even have shoes a lot of the time. And I was completely lost in it. I didn't know what year it was. I've spoken about this a little bit in the past, but I didn't know what year it was for a while. I didn't know, who the president was. I had no idea what was going on in the world. I was that lost in it, and I was, you can call it psychosis. It probably was a little bit, or a lot, but I didn't even realize, I thought that I had died somewhere along the way. I thought that I had overdosed, or been, maybe been murdered or something. I thought that had happened at some point, and that I was stuck in hell. I really fully believed that I was living in hell, and I was, essentially, literally. That was my, one of the layers of hell. And, anyway, that leads me back around to the conversation that I had with my son this morning, because he, brought in the fact there were a couple of other incidents. I have had hundreds of near-death experiences. Not one, not two, and not little ones. Big ones. I call them death and near-death experiences. The first one I had when I was 7 years old. So, anyhow, lots of experiences with that. But what I realized is that, and what he was bringing up is, maybe you did die in one of those times, and then you just sort of like shift into, maybe that version of me did die, and then shifted into, a new version of me, because there's so many parallel realities. And, there's, you can think about that. Oh, there's so much to it. That's so juicy for me. I love conversations like this. And I'm one of those people that I don't know. That's one of the things that I love to say. This is a big phrase that I've learned in my awakening process. Especially with, I just this morning I heard there's disclosure stuff going on. Anyhow, all of that. It's so funny. But here's what I have to say about all of these things. This death, and do we just switch over into another, an alternate or parallel reality, and we're alive in that one then? What I think is probably, maybe, but I don't know. And that's what I like to say with a lot of things that are just have to do with consciousness and energy and these really wild, multidimensional aspects of ourselves and of the world we live in. I like to just think of it that way. I don't know, but maybe. And isn't that cool that I don't have to know? That way I'm not grasping and gripping for something, and I don't have to know. In fact, I think it was around 2016 or 17, I was having all these dreams and visions and downloads, and people were coming into my dreams, like Tesla and certain other famous people throughout history, and I was just like, what's happening? And I was getting all this information, and it was kind of overwhelming, and I was kind of overloaded with it. And I prayed about it. I was like, God, this is a lot, and I don't know what's real and not real, and what to do with all of this. And it was always my prayer that these energies would go to whoever they were for and needed, that could do something with them, that could create or invent, whether it was art or writing, whatever it was. And so I knew I was bringing it in and through me, but it was a lot. And so I was told, after I prayed about it for several weeks, very fervently, I was like, help, this is a lot, it's all so much, so overwhelming, I can't write it all down, I can't remember it all. And they were like, it's okay. My spirit team, my guides, my guidance, my inner guidance, my own soul, God, source, divine, told me, it's okay. You're on a need-to-know basis. If and when you need to know, if you need to remember it, you'll know. And if you need to do something with it, you'll know. And I was like, okay, cool. And that stuck with me ever since. I love that. So it takes the weight off of me and instead of having all these awakening experiences and all this information and downloads and experiences, I don't always have to do anything with it in the moment, and I don't always have to know. I'm like, is this real or not? Well, is it? It's real to me, the experience of it. And that's what I want to say to you. Your experiences are real. They're valid to you, however you're experiencing them. And just because your friend, family, neighbor, anyone around you isn't having those same experiences doesn't mean they're not valid. They're real to you. It's your reality. Anyway, I think it's 4:44 on the clock. That's probably my call to go. Oh. There was that, though. Yeah, who knows if I believe that we're eternal, and that we do, if and when we've died throughout all of our lifetimes, we do, there are spaces and places in between, and I am familiar with those places, but we do continue on in yet another reality, parallel timeline, and really, it's all here right now, though. All of those lifetimes and all of those layers, all of the different characters that we've played in all of them. And this is what my son and I came to. And this is what I love. Ooh. Right now, we get to sort of collapse all those other realities that we've lived in and been in, all the parts of our consciousness and our soul that have been scattered throughout all space and time, and like stretched way out and seemingly lost but not lost. It's all there. Like, it's this great gathering. Ooh, I feel it right now in my bones and my soul. We're in the process of this great gathering of reclaiming all of the parts of us, all the parts of our soul and our consciousness and our experiences and our wisdom. Oh, I heard that song. What song is that? It's all coming back to me now. I don't know what song that is. It's all coming back to us now. This is exciting. I'm getting excited. I have no idea what this message is going to be or be like. It's long. I know that. Who knows if I'm going to share this. Okay. This is Ansara. I've gone by many names. Sevens are a huge thing for me. I just want to put that out there. My son's name is Seven. This star in my heart center. This is for him. I got this a few weeks after he was born. It's a 7-pointed star. 7 was always like my jam, my number. That was my thing since I was younger. I loved 7. And his name came into me a few weeks. This is for another video, but it came to me a few weeks before he was born. I thought I had his name chosen, and that came in, and it's probably him. He's like, this is who I am. I'm 7. I've had 7 different last names during my lifetime. Yeah, 3 of them were from when I was very young. 7 different last names. I have brought 7 beautiful souls onto the earth plane, given birth to them. 7 kids, 7 different last names. I have a son named 7. I have a 7-pointed star on my chest. I don't know, maybe there's like a soul group or something to that. Who knows why I was called to share that. Whew. That was a whole nother layer of my awakening, is during my pregnancy with him. And then in the days and weeks after I had him. Whoa. That was really when things really started to come in for me. That was in 2015. And then again in 2016 and 2017. That's when things got just, And during my awakening processes, all of them, throughout all the years, starting in 2009, my go-to was to go outside. I have sat on the ground, on the earth, and meditated, whether it was a few minutes or even hours. It used to be hours. And I would just connect in very simply to the core of the earth and to the sun, to what I consider to be Mother Earth, Mother Gaia Sophia, and Father God, Source and Creator, Source, Father, Ra, Sun. Anyway, I've said enough for now. Love and blessings. Mwah.